As a real estate agent, you know that the industry can be tough to navigate, with constant challenges and obstacles to overcome. That's why we created the Agents Who Crush It in Real Estate podcast, where top performing agents share their insights and strategies for success. Join us as we dive into the good, the bad, and the ugly of growing a thriving real estate business. Your host, Lindsay Favazza, will be your guide on this journey. So sit back, relax, and get ready to learn from the best in the business.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Agents Who Crush It in Real Estate podcast. I'm your host, Lindsay Favazza, and today I have a truly inspiring guest with me. In a short span of time, she has made waves in the real estate industry and has shown us all what dedication and hustle truly look like. I'm talking about none other than the remarkable Cristina Coppola. Cristina recently qualified for the 2023 Lamacchia Realty President's Club, and this is her first time reaching this prestigious milestone after only being in the biz for 3 years. Just to give you an idea of her dedication, she surpassed a whopping $16 million in sales volume this year alone. And if that wasn't impressive enough, she's trilingual. Fluent in Italian and English and conversational in Spanish. Cristina, bienvenida, my friend.
Gracias, Lindsay.
I only know a few words, so there you go.
That's okay.
So, Cristina, why don't you start off by telling our audience exactly what your journey getting into real estate looked like? If you have to start even before that, like what were you doing before? What got you to this point?
Yeah, absolutely. So before I got my real estate license, I was working in a department store at a beauty counter, and I'd been the counter manager for a few different makeup brands through my time there. And then COVID hit. Everything got shut down. We were home, quarantined, and I'd always had a real passion for sales, and decided that this would be my time to take the class. I figured it's all online. What else am I doing? So I took that time. Really liked the material, even how quote unquote boring it can kind of be.
Yeah.
So it was easy for me to get through. And then, I just spent the rest of my time studying. And then I ended up going back to work because everything opened back up, and got also licensed. And my first year, licensed, I was working full time still at the department store. And I was able to eventually leave and go full time, which was great. But I was doing both. I would say I never said I was a part-time agent. I was a full-time agent with a full-time job.
With a full-time job. You were
with another job.
Dual career is how
Yeah.
I hear people say it. Yeah.
I still had bills. And so I kind of had to, work through, weaning off one and transitioning to the other. But yeah. It's been great since.
I mean, I think a lot of people will resonate with them because they probably are thinking like, I don't have the money to like just dive in. So why don't you take us back to that a little bit and talk about how you made that transition, how you were able to kind of like, press the gas on the real estate thing and kind of pull back, and like, what was the final moment that you went, okay, I'm ready to commit to this full time? Like take us back through that.
Okay. So, I mean, I actually remember it pretty vividly. It wasn't even too long ago, but
I know.
So when I got back to work, I been back to work for a few months, and then I ended up getting my license in August of 2020, joined Lamacchia. And at first it was just, easy to do both, because when you first start out, you're just going through the trainings, you're trying to absorb as much information as possible. So I kind of had a plan in mind on how to, my exit strategy right from the beginning. Like once I had made that commitment, like, okay, like now I'm not only taking the class, now I'm joining the brokerage, I'm paying the, to take the test, like I'm in at this point. So got to make it, worth my while. And I knew it was going to be hard, because that was, a lot of the, feedback that I had gotten, that it's not easy. And, the real hard part is, getting the leads. And this was before we really knew like what COVID was going to take us for,
Exactly.
how hard that layer of it was going to be. But I knew the hardest part was going to be to get clients and so on and so forth. And also to, differentiate myself. I'm no longer like selling you lipsticks or, perfume. I'm selling you something a little bit more, I guess, serious.
Yeah.
So my exit strategy was like, well, at first, I'm definitely going to need to keep paying my bills. So I'm going to have to keep going to work, but let me do everything else to prepare myself, for the next step. So that was attending the trainings. I watched all of the Crush It trainings with Anthony,
Mhm.
like all of the playbooks, like before I started the Crush It basics course.
Yep.
That way kind of already knew, like, kind of had a grasp of like what I was selling, like what that process was going to look like.
Yeah.
And I just went through the checklist, got myself, on all the platforms, Zillow, Google, realtor.com, like just streamlined all of like my digital profile, cleaned out my, Facebook, my Instagram, made a new one, just did all of that like desk stuff, quote unquote, and learning while I was still at work. And so at my job, what did that look like? So it was retail. So I would either
Yeah.
work a 12 to 8, a 9 to 5,
Yeah.
like a 2 to 9. I have at the time my son was in the first grade and going to private school, so I'd be driving back. I mean, it was crazy. So
Yeah.
um, when I went through that phase of just kind of like absorbing all information and, hitting that checklist, making sure like that was all set, then it was time to get on leads. And that was one of the main reasons why I joined Lamakia. I needed to, first, I guess, like be able to convince myself that I knew what I was doing before I could convince my family, who really saw
Yeah.
me as like new to the business, a makeup artist. Like I worked
Yeah.
in a department store, I sold, lipstick. So I wanted to like, gain credibility. And really, I feel like the fastest way to do that and gain the experience was to just take the leads. So I did all of the stuff to get on the leads. And then once I got on the leads, you know, for me, like it felt like a lot of leads that I was getting. And I feel like I was getting a lot of leads compared to a lot of what other brokerages, but even the bad ones, like even if there was just a few good ones in there, like that was okay with me because I had a full other job. So I
Yeah.
mean, I had an hour break and, depending on my shift, like if I was going in at 12, I dropped my son off at school and then I would be dedicating until 11 o'clock, that time block to, call or whatnot, go on my break. I'd be in my car. I'd be like doing the follow-ups, calling. Like I was kind of like the worst employee, like endless bathroom breaks, like, just like, I'm sorry, I got caught up over here. Like I would just like disappear, but I knew that like I just needed to keep
You were
my
working towards
check.
that goal. Yeah.
Yeah, if I got fired, that was fate. But I thankfully had been at that job for long enough that I kind of like could rest on my previous, they were like, "Oh, like people wouldn't notice if I was gone because they thought I was just doing something in the other part of the store. It's a large store, so you kind of hide."
Hopefully none of them listen to this.
They knew it was obvious. I
Yeah.
was the worst. I was the worst. I had my head in cabinets making calls, like hiding, crouching. Like if anybody goes into that Nordstrom, like I show you all the hiding spots. But yeah, and then when I started to, book clients, it was like, okay, like, my shift on Saturday is 1 to 9, like, let's do showings, like starting at 9:30, right? So, it was manageable at first because I didn't have a ton of clients, but then I started to close, and I started to see like, okay, like I'm getting the hang of it, but I'm still not comfortable, like,
Cutting off that
relying
income.
on this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you don't know. And so then I kept telling myself, like, when I get to a point where I feel like I'm missing out on real opportunities and real money because of my, job, my W-2 job,
Yeah.
then, that's when I'll have to make like a severe decision on like whether like I'm able to like
Yeah.
sustain this. And eventually, like it just got to the point where it was like, okay, like I have to.
Yeah. I think it's super, like I said before, I think it's super important for people to hear that because there's definitely a lot of people out there that are probably listening to this and they're hearing the fact that like it's doable and it's going to take some hustle. Like I said
Yeah.
in your intro, like no one has shown more hustle than you, and that's like going out on your lunch break instead of just taking a lunch break and relaxing and then maybe at night, like picking it up. Like you really got to put your time and energy into this if it's
Yeah.
something that you want. And then recognize when it's time for it to be switched over.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I was really exhausted, like, frankly, like, it was really, really hard. And it was even hard, like, once I quit to switch my mind out of like 24/7 work.
Mm,
Um, and it was draining me, and I kind of like, but I'm still learning. Not only am I learning like how to get clients, I'm learning, transactions, how to manage them, how to manage my stress level, like, and things that seemed like disasters like are now just commonplace happening.
Yeah.
So like I've had to like adjust to like, okay, like, is this normal? And then also too, like, the market and the seasonality of it, like learning not to panic. So I just try to train as much as I can and keep like
Mhm.
as grounded as possible to manage that, because
Yeah.
I went through a time period where I was like, okay, I quit my other job, but now I feel like I don't have enough time in the day to work in real estate. Like, how is that possible? Like,
How is that
I
possible?
just gained
Yeah.
so much time. Yeah, so it's
It's
been a
funny that
journey.
it's funny that you mentioned that because what I also think is really, really impressive. So I know you now, and I know that, you're very humble too. Like, you're not a braggy person by any means. So I'm gonna brag for you. Um,
Thanks.
I know that getting in around 2020, obviously we weren't sure, like you said, what was gonna happen with the market and what was like how things were gonna go. And it was like really challenging in some ways. And then in other ways, like things got really hot,
Mhm,
you know?
mhm,
So, there's a lot of deals getting put under and stuff like that. But this
mhm,
year for a lot of even really experienced agents has been one of their worst years.
mhm,
And this has been your best year and you've made President's Club. Like
mhm,
that's something that you should feel really proud of because you didn't just, scale
mhm.
your business. You scaled it to a point where this year not a lot of people are getting to that level. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean? So it's like
yeah.
yes,
Yeah,
you're stressing and you're like, how the heck am I going to do this? But like
yeah,
at the same time, like you're there, you're at that high
yeah,
level now and so quickly. So it's
yeah.
really been awesome to watch.
Thanks, I appreciate that. I definitely suffer from, imposter syndrome. Um,
Everybody does. Yeah.
yeah, but in a sense, like, I feel like that's also what drives me, like, and, like, despite the market, like, to me, like, it's a consideration, but I'm not concerned by it.
Yeah.
Um, like, they're like, Anthony says it all the time, there's deals closing every day. I mean, so, like, it's you just gotta work harder.
You just got to work. You just got to
Yeah.
work and keep your eyes set on it. And yeah, the imposter syndrome is just you getting in your own head and making any kind of like, like doubting yourself. It's
Mhm. Mhm.
you can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
You're there.
That's
You've
not
made it.
yeah.
So why don't you tell the audience being trilingual and being able to being able to communicate with multiple groups of people, what has that done for you and for real estate? Have you used that angle? Have you been able to help people because of that ability, or not yet? Or what's your outlook on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Spanish, like, I have so many Spanish speaking clients.
Yeah,
And
good.
now I'm not a native Spanish speaker. I'm fluent that, I can understand anything that somebody's speaking to me in Spanish. And then my speech, I sound a little silly, but I can definitely like hold a conversation and
Yeah,
make myself understood and understand the other side. And I would say like, you know, all of those leads that people were like, "This one speaks Spanish, like,
yeah,
who can help?"
yeah,
Me, and a lot of the times too, like, with a lot of Spanish speaking clients, I've noticed that they're not very educated on, what the possibilities are, and they're more than qualified to purchase too, which is a
yeah,
shame. And like, it's about kind of teaching, like that initial part. And in 2020, especially too, like, it was so easy to get approved, so it was so nice to, like, really be able to, like, help, like, almost anybody that, like, came
anybody needs.
across,
Yeah,
because and so, yeah, no, Spanish has helped, and then Italian too. I mean, um,
yeah.
I've been able to make some, connections with American Italians and, just genuinely, and then have that translate into real estate. But
That's great. So, what about your marketing? So, how do you market yourself? Where are your leads coming from now? Are you still heavily relying on company leads? Have you seen that change in your sphere where more and more of your friends and family are now referring you? Or, where are those leads coming from for you?
um, I would say my bread and butter is definitely company provided leads. But that spirals into like
So many other things.
branches, right?
Yep.
So some of those company leads that like I originally received are coming back, or maybe company leads will refer. Um, and so like that kind of spirals too. And then once people start seeing you close deals, like when you start, posting about it and whatnot, I have gotten a lot more
Yeah.
referral business. And also too, like a lot of some lenders have been really good to me as well in referring clients to me, which has been really helpful too. So I would say it's a pretty even split. I don't plan on like, and I actually buy my own leads,
Mhm.
um, but I'm still on the company ones.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I have like
That's great.
specific ones that I buy for myself that I like to receive extra of that specific source.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm still on the company leads, and I don't really plan on getting off unless they kick me off, or I took a little break
The
over the
way you're
summer.
converting them, I don't think people are gonna kick you off at this point.
Anything's possible. But yeah, I took a little break, but yeah, I think it's always good to be on them.
Yeah, it just gives you more opportunities, especially where
Yeah.
even though you're doing such a great job, you are still new to the business. So it's,
Mhm.
you just got to have those at bats. And what
Yeah.
is awesome about those company leads that you get is that after they've closed, they're now
Yeah.
yours. They're now on your split. They refer, they come back, like
Yeah.
that's yours. So like, it gives you an at bat is like what we always say. And then after
Yeah.
that, you get to just build your business from there. So it's like
Yeah.
otherwise you might not have that stepping stone. So I love that. But they also wouldn't come back if you weren't doing a kick-ass job. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's on you.
Thanks.
So, what strategies do you think have been kind of instrumental in getting you to where you are right now? So, is there a specific thing that you're like, wow, I always do this, or I always say this, and it always
Yeah.
makes people feel comfortable? Or like, what
Mhm.
is something that you can share that you do that you is something you'll never give up doing?
Yeah. Well, I feel like I've um, really pulled a lot from my past experience working in retail. So just to touch a little bit further on like what I used to do, like I was a counter girl at the makeup counter. So at first it was a makeup counter where people would come and I would essentially sit them down and sell them products, and then I moved to like a more like luxury brand where I would sell them like $600 perfumes, and but I operated on the basis of clienteling. And so when you're a counter girl at those counters, you're a counter manager, so you're upheld to goals. You have to cold call your lists. You get your walk up traffic. You sit them down, you make a connection, they buy something, you call them
Oh,
later, they become your clients. And so like you build a business. And so literally, like although like the subject matter is different, the
the
concept of
process is the
yeah,
same.
the
Yeah.
concept of clienteling is the same. I'm just not in a store, like pulling people or walking up to people or having people walk up to me. So like the leads is my walk up traffic at my
Yep.
store.
Yep.
And and then I talked to them about something different. So just working in retail for so many years, having so much FaceTime with so many different people all the time and being able to sell to them has been just so helpful to me too. Just recognizing like when someone's ready to spend their money and not messing it up. Um,
Yeah.
that skill is really helpful. And then just the ability to chat with on a professional, friendly, warm, but not overly warm level. Like just the practice of having that
That
conversation with
building
strangers is so
rapport. Yeah.
helpful.
Yep.
Yeah. And then just that process of clienteling, following up, um, you know,
Yeah,
that's
I
really
love
been
that.
helpful.
So, how let's take it to this place now. What apps or tools do you use every day, real estate related, that you're like, I will never get this off my phone or I can never lose this piece of thing? Like what is it that you check every day, use every day? What is it?
I'm the worst with technology.
So you're like, they can all go away.
Yeah, I'll handwrite everything.
Oh my God, you're
No, I
so
know.
funny.
Outlook, email,
Of course.
mandatory.
Yeah.
Honestly, yeah, I'm not too techy. Like converting a PDF, showing time. I've got the MLS I can do. I mean, so
Well, and
from
your
working
Instagram too, your Instagram, because
Instagram,
you're
of course,
constantly doing stuff on social.
Instagram, Facebook. Yeah, you
Yeah.
want to like put yourself out there. But then, while I was working at the store, I didn't have a laptop like to do all the stuff. So I
Yeah.
can write an offer from my cell phone, like super
Yeah.
easy. So I can kind
Absolutely.
of do all of that type of stuff, like PDF converter.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. So, what is your key to balancing now? Or do you feel like you're still not in balance? Or do you feel like you're getting better at it? Like you have your son who, how old now? Is he like
He's
third
10.
grade?
He's 10, fourth grade. Yeah.
My goodness gracious.
No.
So, he's 10, you have a 10-year-old son, you have your husband, you have your adorable dog that we just met.
Yeah.
So how do you balance that with the, strenuous schedule of being a realtor?
Yeah. Well, there's always room for improvement. I, but, I definitely try to, actually, I'm pretty good at setting boundaries with clients as far as like, I'm not going to, unless it's a super new client or unless like, it's a super emergency, I'm not going to reply to you at night. And sometimes I purposely won't reply right
Yes,
away.
I love that.
Just because like sometimes I'm driving or I need a second. So setting those boundaries with clients, and I've learned to kind of differentiate like emergencies versus not.
Yep.
Sometimes I do find myself detaching from what's going on around me and sinking into the phone. um More so not because it's an emergency, but because I'm like looking to just like get ahead on all of those things, kind of
Mhm.
multitask. But yeah, I think I'm working on being more present, with the phone. If it's family time, it's family time.
Yeah, I love that.
But I leverage field services a lot. That's super helpful. Um, so helpful. Even if I don't have anything to do, but like I need to spend time doing, computer stuff or emails, like it just frees up a lot of my mental peace too. So
Yeah.
that's
If there's
instrumental.
stuff that you don't have to do, we have, for those of you that are listening that are unaware, at our company, we have a team called Field Services. So Cristina can, have a showing, and if she has two showings at the same time, she can send someone from Field Services to do one of them so that she can still get it done, but she doesn't have to be in two places at once. So it's like we always were
Cool.
calling it like Uber, like it's like the
Yeah.
Uber of real estate. So it's great. And again, like maybe it's not that you have two showings, maybe it's that your son has a soccer game. Like you
Yeah.
should be able to, multitask your
Mhm.
time. And if that showing isn't necessarily
Yeah.
going to be where you need to be at that moment, like that allows you
Yeah.
to have that. So that's great that you take advantage of it. And I
Yeah.
know those people are really awesome to have around. So
Yeah.
they do a great job.
Yeah.
So what would you consider to be the most rewarding part of being in real estate for you now and at this stage in your career?
Well, I definitely feel like I'm contributing positivity to people's financial future and creating homeownership, and that's super rewarding for me. The American dream is real, and alive, and like I love it. Like, I was born in the US, but I moved here when I was 8 years old. And so like just to kind of like be able to be like a part of that, like it's really cool. So I really love that. And I really like, being financially independent and be able to provide for my family, and having like a flexible schedule to a certain extent, like that's
Yeah.
really great. Like I never really thought I'd see the day where like I wouldn't have to ask for a vacation.
Hmm.
And I hate to be like controlled or ask for permission and be on other people's schedules. So like it's super great where like I literally just have to ask myself if I can
Yeah.
manage it.
Hmm.
um so yeah, that's also great.
I love that. So tell me a funny story that you've had in real estate so far. There's got to be something, some client situation that happened or something that happened to you. Like, what's the funny story that comes to your mind?
Oh my gosh, I feel like I'm gonna think of them all after we're done.
You definitely are.
I'm trying to I'm
We'll
trying to
type we'll
think.
type them into the show notes. I'll give you another
Hmm.
question and you can keep that one in the back of your mind.
Yeah, yeah.
What is the one thing that you wish you had known now that you're in real estate? What is the one thing that you wish you had known back when you started?
Before I started,
Yeah, before you started or right when you started, what's like the one thing that you wish you had known?
I wish I had known how high rates were going to go up,
Mm,
so
good
I
one.
could have quit sooner and stacked more leads when everybody and their mother could get a pre-approval letter, because I would have
Mhm.
like tripled my first year if I had just known that. I would have quit sooner.
Hindsight.
Yeah.
Hindsight.
Yeah.
But you weren't ready at the time, and no one could have guessed that things would have
Yeah.
turned out the way that they did. So,
Yeah.
everything happens for a reason.
Exactly.
So what's next for you? What are your goals now that you've hit President's Club? I'm assuming that was a goal for you in the first place. So now that you've done that, what is it that's on the horizon for you that you're shooting for?
Honestly, just more of the same, bigger and better. Maybe President's Club Elite, but really I just want to focus on like perfecting the like quote unquote my craft portion of it. Like, when now that I'm not going a million miles a minute, like I can kind of like put processes into place, make it easier on myself, make it more streamlined, make it more organized, just make it better, make it a better experience for my clients, and then find more innovative ways to like lead generate. I don't know if I'm the type that will eventually want to ever start a team. That's something that I've like thought about. I don't really know if like I want to go manage people
Down
anymore,
that path,
but
yeah.
yeah, like, so I mean that might be one thing, but definitely like my goal has always been to sell like bigger and more expensive things.
So to
So
increase your price point, that's a
yeah,
good
I'd
goal.
love that. Yeah, that would be
That's
awesome.
amazing. I love that. Well, you and I can talk. Maybe I can help you and we can
Absolutely.
brainstorm that for
Little
you.
luxury marketing.
A little luxury marketing. I like it. All right. So if you were not in real estate today, what do you think you would be doing? Do you think you would still be at Nordstrom? Do you think you would have gone down some other sales path, or what do you think?
Oh, okay. So if I hadn't gone, I thought you said
If
if
you
I hadn't could
hadn't,
be it.
no,
Well,
if
I
you,
was
well,
gonna
I
say I'd
mean,
be a
that
criminal
too.
defense attorney, but that ship sailed. I didn't finish college, but I
Oh my
love to
gosh.
argue. Yeah. So definite like a trial attorney but no, if I was still at Nordstrom, honestly, I don't know. I might still have been at Nordstrom. I probably would have gotten sick of it. I definitely would be in sales,
Yeah,
medical
for sure.
sales, or some sort of high price point sale.
Yeah, because
Or
you're
luxury
really
retail.
good at it. Yeah, you're really
Thank you.
good at it. So,
Thank you.
well, my friend, unless you can't think, can you think of a funny story? Because you can just
Oh my
tell us
gosh.
later.
Let me just think real quick. Oh, I had I know I can't say it.
Oh man,
I
you're gonna
can't.
do
No, I
that
can't
to
say
us?
it's funny. No, it's funny, but I actually don't think I could say it.
Done. All right. Well, we're
I'm
gonna leave
sorry.
that part in just to make everyone die and want to know exactly
Little
what the.
teaser, part
They'll have
2.
to call
Yeah.
you on the
I
side.
can't say it. I can't say it.
So what we always like to say is that I always try to point to the right spot. Oh, look, I did it. Those are her, Instagram and her Facebook, handles. So please feel free to reach out to her. She's a wealth of knowledge and someone who I'm sure would, provide some advice to other people that are out there and trying to make it in this business. You have so much knowledge to give now. And I just want to make sure that, people can reach out and find you. We will put all the information about you in the show notes and everything too. So any parting words for our audience today? Any advice for realtors out there trying to get to the level that you've made it to?
Just be honest with yourself about if you want to do this and how much work it will take, and actually do it. Don't just say you're going to call 10 people, call them.
Make those dials. I
Yeah,
like
do
it.
it. Just do
Well,
it.
you just do it. Nike. We're just going to do it. Awesome. Cristina, thank you so much. This was an absolute pleasure. I really appreciated getting to know you more too, just because, we've hung out before, but like this was really eye-opening for me, and you've done such an incredible job. So it was really great to hear that. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in to another episode of the Agents Who Crush It in Real Estate podcast. We will see you on the next one. Have a good one, everybody.
As a real estate agent, you know that the industry can be tough to navigate, with constant challenges and obstacles to overcome. That's why we created the Agents Who Crush It in Real Estate podcast, where top-performing agents share their insights and strategies for success. Join us as we dive into the good, the bad, and the ugly of growing a thriving real estate business. Your host, Lindsay Favazza, will be your guide on this journey. So sit back, relax, and get ready to learn from the best in the business.